What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and I've decided to go ahead and get reviews up for The Hunger Games. So this is the second look at The Hunger Games. Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I think, is just now hitting stars. I reviewed it a while back. I figured this is probably the one time if I wanted to talk about The Hunger Games. I don't think we're going to be making any more, because that movie wasn't very good. Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes did not do very well at the box office. I don't know why they would greenlit more. So I wanted to take advantage of this time to put up some Hunger Games reviews. Cool? Cool. Anyway, click subscribe. I watched this on Netflix with audio description. That's really important for you to know because there's some stuff we have to talk about. With regards to this description. First off is the fact that despite the fact that Netflix did not push me into another title, it did just kind of end during the credits. Like, my film just stopped. It just ended during, it was in the middle of doing the soundtrack, so it didn't reach the end. I don't know who described this. And it's one of those weird things because Netflix doesn't push me into the next title until literally something is over. And it didn't begin something else. I didn't get like a preview of the next thing. It just ended. And I was like, what? The movie's still going. What is this wizardry? So, I don't actually know who described this. It's just very weird. It was like we're in the middle of doing this. I'm almost to the end. I'm in the middle of like who's in soundtrack, and the movie just stopped. Okay, cool. Thank you. And it's kind of important. I really wanted to talk about it because I'm sure this feels like it's been around long enough. There might be multiple people who described it, which is why I'm saying Netflix. If you're the people who are currently on Netflix, then this is your track. It's important to say that because your track is not being used properly. It's kind of a good thing that it stops there because I'm sure this is a well-made audio description track. I've seen this film before. This is from my Vision days. I also read the book. I'm a big Hunger Games fan. And as depressing as that is, considering the subject matter, what that really means when you say, I'm a big Hunger Games fan. I love watching kids kill each other in an arena, in some sort of weird dystopian reality. No, I like the film, and it's towards the beginning of Jennifer Lawrence's career, and she's just her career is just starting to get hot, and it's weird to look at her now and see where she is now and then back then, and it was a cool experience just to rewatch this for the I don't know how many times I've seen the Hunger Games. Not that many, but maybe this was the fifth time. Probably. I've seen it a couple times, the first one at least. I've seen the first one more than the others. I don't always complete the entire quadrilogy. Is that a word? It's got, okay, so the cast is obviously Jennifer Lawrence, Josh Hutcherson, Liam Hemsworth, Elizabeth Banks, Woody Harrelson, Donald Sutherland, Wes Bentley, Alexander Ludwig, Stanley Tucci. I'm running out of people that I can remember off the top of my head. That's enough people. And it's Katniss Everdeen, the story of, the girl on fire and how that began, and a lot of it still works. It's really hard to follow it though when it's on Netflix, and I'll tell you why. Because the audio description, man, if you want to listen to some audio description, this is the way to watch it. the audio description is so awkwardly balanced, far above the film's soundtrack, the original sound of the film, that you can barely hear the film. It is so far above it that I was struggling to hear the dialogue. The balance is not even close. It's just like they've got the audio description operating at like a 10 and the movie's operating at like a 3. It's just like they're doing like the audio descriptions coming out nice, crisp, and clear. And I can't turn up anymore because it just makes the audio description louder, you know? And like that scene where she volunteers as tribute, she's like shouting it. She's like, I volunteer as tribute. I was like, what? I volunteer as tribute. It was just like, God help them when they try to have a quiet scene. So I actually missed chunks of it because it was so quiet. I was like, what's happening? What's going on right now? And it wasn't balancing either. Like, it's not like something where the sound, I believe we call it audio ducking, where the sound like cuts like in and out and back and forth and has sort of like this weird balance problem. No, the soundtrack for the film was just balanced really low. If you run audio description on this, it runs at like I would say a 3 compared to like the 10 of the audio description. It's very, very awkward. Not that I mean, I appreciate audio description and thank you so much for having it, because it makes things watchable. But at the same time, I was thinking about all the people who hadn't seen Hunger Games before. It's like, if this is your first time watching Hunger Games, good luck. May the odds be ever in your favor. Because this was such a weird experience for me. It was okay because I've seen the film before, and I was like, okay, I know what happens here, I know what happens here, I know what happens here. This is where we're at. So if I missed something, it was fine. Plus, I'm getting the audio description. So in the scenes where I'm not necessarily hearing the score or the music or anything like that to help me out, I am getting audio description. So like the scene where she's getting frustrated because nobody's paying attention to her because she's just the girl from District 12. So, and she decides to use her archery skills. I won't spoil that for anybody else, but that scene, you can't really hear anything, but it's well described. So that was good. It's mostly an action-heavy scene anyway. So, yeah, there's plenty here that's worth it. But I have to note the fact that, especially if you're hard of hearing, this would not be the version that you would want to watch. You would want to try to catch it somewhere else, which is disconcerting because, like, one of the things that I noticed is that not the whole quadrilogy did not have audio description on Apple the last time I looked. I think there was when Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes came out, there was a package thing, one of those where they put it together and you can get like all 5 Hunger Games films. And I went through and I noticed and I was like, I don't want to do that because that film doesn't have it, that film doesn't have it. Like, same thing with Kung Fu Panda, by the way. Not all of the Kung Fu Panda films have audio description on in the iTunes store. So due to like that inconsistency, it sort of makes it a little bit harder to track down and get your whole thing. Meanwhile, Netflix has the whole thing audio described. I don't know if the sequels are going to be like this, but the first film is, which is worth mentioning. But I already love the film. This wasn't going to change that. This is a second look at the Hunger Games. So I think the film is aged fine. There's nothing about this film that has me going, I can't believe, if anything, watching this after I've seen Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes makes me realize why there is a Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, because this was so good. And as somebody who read the books, this is one of the few films that doesn't piss me off going from book to film. There are changes, but they're not They're not so incredibly divisive. There are changes where you're like, I wish we had included that, but we didn't. There are characters that they cut out with storylines and stuff that are minor. They cut out some minor characters from the book. And they changed what would probably have been really horrifying and hard to get into a PG-13. When you've already got a film that's about kids killing kids, it's really hard to then do the thing that they actually do in the book, which is that these wolves are comprised from the dead bodies of the fallen tributes. So they look like Rue and Foxface and all the others. So which is somewhat horrifying when you think about how that could be portrayed on screen, as these wolf-human hybrids, because they're recognizable enough that in the book, Katniss and Peter are able to recognize them for, who they are. And at the same time, it's just, I'm trying to imagine what that would look like on film, and I'm like, I feel like we're already sort of on a PG-13 iffy, like an iffy heading to R rating. And I think that might have tipped the scales, so it's good that they probably dodged this. This is directed by Gary Ross, and he is the director of Pleasantville, which is also one of my favorite films, and Seabiscuit. So it's got a good director behind it. I like the music, so it's got some iconic moments in it. The stuff with Rue is really good, and Jennifer Lawrence is fantastic in this. I don't know what else to say. I love this movie. I consider this like a legitimate film. I don't think this is just like random fluff. We've seen a lot of young adult adaptations that are just whatever. I read the book. I thought this was a pretty solid adaptation. I think it's well acted and well cast, and it makes good use of its time. It's about 2 hours and 15 minutes long. So the audio description here is actually really good audio description, and boy, you can hear it. It is. If you want to hear audio description, there's a place to do it, because you will hear the audio description. I promise you that, sir. Netflix has not balanced this at all. But in the one way that it's usually the other way around, where you can't hear the audio description. I think this is the first time where I've been like, I can't hear the movie. I can only hear audio description. So there you go. Anyway, I'm gonna give The Hunger Games an A+. It's one of my favorite films, so I like it well enough. I'll put the plus on top of it just to indicate that, so when you guys know what my tastes are. I do like The Hunger Games enough. Not all of them are going to get the plus. Actually, none of the other ones are going to get a plus. But I know some people think Catching Fire is the better film. I don't. I actually think this is the better film. But I do think Catching Fire is a good film. I'm not somebody who flips 2 over 1. We don't always need to do that. I know that's like an Empire Strikes Back thing where we're like, oh, the second one is not always is the second one better. Sometimes the first one is actually the first one. I think Gary Ross is a great director. I think he's a better director, and you can feel that, the choice of director here. Anyway, I've talked at length, ad nauseum. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And make sure to check out this weird-ass audio description on Netflix before it leaves Netflix. And I'll see you guys on the other side.